2022 Hyundai Ioniq 5 vs Kia EV6, electric brothers from the same mother. These electric SUVs are textbook examples of platform sharing done right. Los Angeles is a pretty jaded place when it comes to cars. When Porsche 911s are as common as Corollas and a Lamborghini Aventador doesn't even warrant a second glance, I was surprised by the reaction the public had to the 2022 Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the 2022 Kia EV6. Whiplash as we drove by. Questions at stoplights. Neighbors knocking on my door. These two mid-priced compact electric SUVs are novel, sure, but hardly the stuff of dreams. Or maybe they are. After years of non-Tesla EVs being basically dull-looking and driving compact crossovers and compliance cars, the new Ioniq 5 and EV6 are design-driven, aspirational, and crucially attainable EVs that just so happen to drive as good as they look. But when we put them in a head-to-head matchup, which one of these showstoppers is better? The Hyundai and Kia, represented here by the loaded Ioniq 5 Limited AWD and loaded EV6 AWD GT line, may be marketed by their manufacturers as SUVs, but they have as much in common with SUVs as the BMW X6 has with coupes. The fact that a Toyota Camry towers over the Kia and is at eye level with the Hyundai at a stoplight only confirms this. Even so, both cars are all the better for not being actual SUVs. The Ioniq 5 is weirdly the more conventional of the two Koreans. Styled like a cyberpunk PT Cruiser, the Ioniq 5's design harkens back to Hyundai's Italian penned hatchbacks of the 80s, with a healthy dose of 64-bit pixelization in its head and taillight graphics. To our eye, the Hyundai resembles a 9/8 THS scale hatchback more than a sport utility. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Whereas the Hyundai looks backward for its design inspiration, the Kia has its gaze forward. It's sporty, muscular, and purposeful. Our sole criticism is that the EV6's nose isn't quite as well resolved as its distinctive rear end. We suspect lengthening its dash-to-axle ratio and stretching its wheelbase from 114.1 inches to match the Hyundai's 118.1-inch span would go a long way, no pun intended, toward refining its design. Despite their drastically different wrappers, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Kia EV6 are textbook examples of platform sharing done right. Both ride on Hyundai's eGMP, Electric Global Modular Platform, architecture and use the same batteries and motors. Although both automakers offer their EVs in single motor configuration with a 58.0 kWh battery pack in their base trims, ours sport the higher volume 77.4 kWh battery packs and are upgraded with dual motor all-wheel drive. Each car sports a pair of permanent magnet electric motors with a total system output of 320 horsepower and 446 pounds-to-foot of torque, and both are capable of quick charging at peak rates of 235 kilowatts. The standard battery packs are limited to 195 kilowatts, which means charging from 10 to 80% can happen in as little as 18 minutes, among the quickest in the industry. The biggest differences between the two cars are suspension tune, tires, and range. The blocky Ioniq 5 Limited AWD can travel 256 miles on a charge, while the sleeker EV6 GT line AWD nets 274 miles. It's worth mentioning that in their most efficient forms, large battery, rear drive, the Hyundai can travel 303 miles on a charge and the Kia 310. With the Hyundai and Kia essentially mirroring each other's specs, it's no surprise they drive similarly in the real world. Neither is as kick-you-in-your-teeth powerful as a Tesla Model Y or Ford Mustang Mach-E GT. If that's what you're after, Kia promises a 576 horsepower EV6 GT in the near future, and Hyundai is electrifying its end-performance brand, but both will throw you hard back in your seat off the line, with the initial surge of torque only starting to taper deep into highway speed territory. Passing power won't be a problem for any dual-motor EV6 or Ioniq 5. The Ioniq 5 is slightly quicker than the Kia, zipping from 0 to 60 miles per gallon in 4.4 seconds versus 4.5 for the EV6. Similarly, the EV6 and Ioniq 5 have good brake setups. Both offer up 4 levels of adjustability via steering wheel paddles, ranging from no regen to max regen and I-pedal mode, allowing for one-pedal driving. We found ourselves bouncing back and forth between the maximum and level 3 settings, the latter of which felt like engine braking after downshifting in an internal combustion-powered car. There are notable differences in ride and handling between the EV6 and Ioniq 5. The Kia's ride is the sportier of the two, and it's tuned such that it perfectly walks the line between too firm and too soft. The Hyundai has a softer edge, it tends to bobble over imperfections that the EV6 just shrugs off. Conversely, the Ioniq 5 steers better than the Kia. Its steering is lighter, organic feeling, and more playful, like a plus-sized hot hatch. It makes this 2.3-ton EV feel surprisingly sprightly. The Kia's steering is quick and direct, but it doesn't quite match the purity of the Hyundai's. We're curious how the EV6 would feel on the Ioniq 5's Michelins, as the Kia's Continental's Kia could perhaps drive the difference in steering feel. We suspect tires might be why the Hyundai's cabin is quieter than the Kia's, too. One of the biggest draws of both the Ioniq 5 and EV6 is their Level 3 DC fast charge capability. Rated for 800-volt charging, the battery packs of both Koreans are capable of double the charging rates of many of today's EVs. 800-volt charging allows peak rates of around 350 kilowatts, while more common 400-volt systems are generally limited to 150 kilowatts. That means the Hyundai and Kia, both limited to a 235 kilowatt peak rate, likely to preserve battery life, can charge quicker and more efficiently than comparable vehicles like the Mustang Mach-E, limited to 150 kilowatts, and Model Y, limited to 210 kilowatts. What that means is less time at the charger. Over nearly a month with both cars, we found both regularly charged as advertised, and identically, when hooked up to a 350 kilowatt rated DC fast charger, making them among the most road trip friendly EVs this side of a lucid air dot. But in an attempt to illustrate just how big of an advantage 800-volt charging is, we plugged the Hyundai into a 350 kilowatt charger, and the Kia into an adjacent 150 kilowatt charger that competitors such as the Mach-E or Volkswagen ID.4 would use. The Ioniq 5 had 11% charge and 28 miles of range remaining, while the EV6 showed 10% charge and 27 miles remaining. It took the Hyundai just 16 minutes, about the length of an average road trip gas station stop, to charge to 80%, at which point it estimated 205 miles of range. Meanwhile, it took the Kia 41 minutes on the slower 150 kilowatt charger to get to 80% and 219 miles of range. By that point, the Ioniq 5 had charged to 99% full and offered up 253 miles of range. Thanks to their 800-volt capability, the Ioniq 5 and EV6 help recalibrate what fast charging really means, making both viable options for one-vehicle households. Time spent at the charger, however brief, gave us time to analyze the Hyundai and Kia's cabins. At first glance, the Ioniq 5 and EV6's interiors are as unique as each vehicle's respective sheet metal. The Hyundai favors an Apple-like design ethos. The dash features a head-up display, HUD, dual 12.3-inch displays framed in white, a black logo-less two-spoke steering wheel, blue-backed black buttons, and silver accents. Aside from the fact that buttons tend to wash out in direct sunlight, they're intuitive and easy to use, which wouldn't be worth mentioning if not for the EV6's annoying use of shared capacitive and touch buttons for its HVAC and infotainment controls. As a rule of thumb, it's never a good thing to virtually move buttons, or have the same knob control both volume and temperature. Aside from its frustrating infotainment interface, the EV6 is the more traditional of the two cabins. The sporty-looking, driver-focused cabin is lined with suede and faux leather, with a big floating center console serving as the visual anchor point. Like the Hyundai, the Kia features a two-spoke steering wheel, a HUD, and twin 12.3-inch displays on its dash, though we found the HUD looked distorted on the windshield, which is unfortunate because multiple drivers complained of difficulty seeing the digital instrument cluster around the steering wheel rim. When it comes to packaging and comfort, our electric siblings are more evenly matched than their outward appearances would suggest. We assumed the squat EV6 might feel cramped compared to the Ioniq 5, but its cabin felt plenty spacious for adults. Even if its front seats offer less headroom than a Subaru BRZ, you can thank the sunroof fitted as standard on the GT line for that. But the Hyundai is roomy and comfortable, too. Its seating positions are more upright, and its hatchback profile helps lend an open, airy, and welcoming feel. Although each only has a small storage compartment under the hood rather than a proper frunk, the Ioniq has significantly more cargo space than the EV6, which had trouble accommodating upright paper grocery bags under the cargo cover. The EV6 and Ioniq 5 are priced competitively with each other. Base price against base price, the EV6 is currently cheaper at $42,115 for a standard battery rear-drive EV6 Lite. The cheapest Ioniq 5 is currently the SE at $44,895, which comes with more features, the larger battery, and a more powerful rear motor. The equivalent Kia, the EV6 Wind, starts at $48,215, though, making it a bit pricier, which held for our loaded Ioniq 5 Limited AWD and EV6 GT line AWD. Our Ioniq 5 Limited started at $55,725 and was equipped with just one option, carpeted floor mats, bringing its out-the-door price to $55,920. Our identically equipped EV6 GT line started at $57,115, and once premium paint and upholstery options were added, its sticker price rose to $58,105. When it comes to picking a winner from these two showstoppers, it comes down to the details. Both look absolutely stellar going down the road, and they offer road trip ready range and fast charge performance. The Kia can go slightly farther on its electrons, but the Hyundai is more affordable. The Hyundai doesn't ride quite as well as the Kia, but it handles better. The Kia has a driver-focused cabin, but some of the controls are just plain annoying and hard to both see and use. Ultimately, when weighing the pros and cons, we're giving the nod to the Hyundai Ioniq 5. The Kia EV6 is a sensational-looking and smooth-riding electric station wagon, but we have a hard time justifying the admittedly minor price gap between the two cars given the EV6's user interface issues, slightly slower acceleration, and less crisp steering. The Hyundai Ioniq 5, on the other hand, backs up its head-turning design with a functional and welcoming cabin, great performance, lightning quick charging, and a more wallet-friendly price. Regardless of which one you choose, though, the Ioniq 5 and EV6 both prove that the inevitable electric future will have plenty to offer the average driver.